Hey, and welcome to those of you who are new and have recently just subscribed, and welcome back to those who have been here before and have watched previous YouTube tutorials. I'm Lena, multi-award-winning pet photographer behind Pet Paparazzi, and in today's tutorial we are going to do a full Photoshop edit. Today we are going to be working on this image here of Floss, the Border Collie. As you can see, I've done absolutely nothing to this image apart from opened it up in Photoshop. I do open up from Lightroom, and in Lightroom I do minor tweaks and adjustments so that they are suitable for previewing for clients, otherwise they will be really dark. So other than that, I've just opened it in Photoshop. So the first thing we need to do is to crop the image. So I'm going for a 7:5, and I want to make sure that this line here is in the middle of, like, straight through the middle of his eyes. So we're going to take that down a bit more. Too much. About there. And then I'm just going to drag it over and recenter it a little bit. When you're done, double tap and it will crop it for you. Now that's got rid of the shoe here, which is great because it means one less thing to remove. But the things we want to remove is his lead and this tree, because the tree is annoying me. Now I've got nothing against trees. I love putting dogs by trees, but it's just a random tree here and there's all this space here, so we don't want it. And I will also remove these little bits of twigs that are popping up and sticking up all over the place because I don't want them in my photo. So there are a number of ways that you can actually remove objects from your photos. You can use the clone stamp tool. If you select that, if you hold Option down on an area of your image that you want to look similar to this, and then paint over, it will then paint over the place that you don't want, but it's not very accurate and it will take a lot of work to get it where you want it to. So the other way is the spot healing brush. Again, this isn't as accurate, but if you paint over, you want content aware, which is at the top up here. This one takes a little bit of time, and again, it's a bit better than the clone stamp tool, but you've got this line here, so it makes it look quite obvious. You can go ahead with your spot healing brush. If you decrease your brush size, you can go ahead and just remove that and it will blend it in a lot more. But again, I don't want to do that, and I've lost my crop. I don't want to do that, so we are going to do the two ways that I generally do it. So you want your lasso tool, which is a few up from the spot healing, and then you just want to select the area that you want to essentially remove from your image. So for me at the moment it's this tree. The first way you can do this is by content aware fill. So if you go to edit, and if you go to fill, it will bring up the fill box, and everything should be the same as what it is here. Just make sure you're on content aware and that the color adaptation's on, and everything else here is as it should be, and then press OK. There is another way you can do that. On a MacBook, I press backspace and it brings it up. I'm not sure what it is on a Windows. I will have to double check. This way is more accurate than the other ways I find, but again, you still do have a little line, so it's a bit obvious. So you will need to go in with your spot healing brush just to sort of refine that little edge and blend it in a lot more. For that I use proximity match, and if I find it blends quite well. And you have to go over it a few times just to make it match. Good as new. The second way that I like to do it, we go back to our selection, is the generative fill. Now this uses AI, and not everybody likes using AI. I personally don't see an issue. I'm not essentially adding things to the image that weren't there in the first place. I just want to remove the tree. So you don't need to put in a prompt. I'll just press generate and it will then remove the tree, and again it will generate the background. And it will also come up with 3 different variations, so you can pick your favourite and which one looks the best. This way does take a minute, give or take. There we go. Few options. I personally prefer the middle, but the tree's gone. So I'm just going to flatten this, otherwise it will make it hard to work on. And then next thing, we're going to get rid of his lead. So again, you want your lasso tool and you want to select the lead. Now try and keep this tight to the lead as possible without going over the lead. I have a really wonky hand, so that's great. Just ignore my wonky lines. And for this one, we're just going to use a content aware fill. So I'm just going to press my backspace and it will bring up the fill box. Again, content aware, color adaptation on, normal mode, and opacity 100%. Press OK. Give it a minute, and then there you have it. Now there's a bit of a line here, so I'm going to quickly use my spot healing brush tool on proximity match, and then I'm just going to go over and blend that in a bit more. I'm also going to zoom in on his fur where the clip was on his lead, and just go over, no, wrong bit, go on content aware, and we're just going to go over that just to make it look a bit more seamless. Now we've done that, we've removed the tree, we've removed the lead. Now he looks like he was sitting there like the goodest boy in the whole wide world. I'm now going to remove these annoying little twigs because I don't want them there. So I'm just going to keep on my spot healing brush tool for this one on content aware, and I'm just going to brush those out. This one's playing up with me a little bit here, so I'm going to go on proximity match and just paint over there, and there we go. Now we're going to go over to him and we're going to get rid of this bit on content aware, magic, and there's a little bit of a stick here over his paw, so again I'm just going to get rid of that because I don't want it there. And I don't know if you can see that, but there is another bit of, I don't even think that's a twig, it's probably a bit of dried grass. We're going to get rid of that. And then while I'm here and I'm zoomed in, I'm just going to go up his fur and his body just to check that he has no bits of fluff or loose bits of grass or grass seeds, as dogs sometimes tend to collect, and he's all good. So I'm going to zoom out, and I'm happy with where that's at now. I like to take a little snapshot just so that I can flick through what it was like before and after, as you can see here. Well, that's where we started with. I'll zoom out. That's what we started with. That's when we cropped it, and that's removing all the objects that we don't want in the image. Now comes time for the layer masks. So again, I have a YouTube tutorial on layer masks already. I will link it above somewhere around here so that you can go and have a look at that and work on layer masks just as they are, rather than trying to absolutely overwhelm yourself and try and do a full tutorial, follow, whatever you want to call it. Because I'm not gonna go really slowly on this layer mask because I have already touched on it before. But anyway, first things first is we don't want to edit on this background layer. We want to click and drag that down and copy it. So now we've got 2 layers, and you want to make sure you've got your background copy layer selected, and then go up to select a mask, wait for it to load, And then everything will be red or whatever color it's set at. Make sure you've clicked on your Refine Edge brush tool here, and make sure you are set to cloud for more detailed results. And then once you've done that, select subject. And it should take a few seconds to a minute. This is taking a bit longer than normal. There we go. Floss has now been selected. So as you can see, it's done a pretty decent job. We've just got a leaf down here and a few bits of flowers that we don't really want. So we're going to take our Refine Edge brush tool and we're just going to paint those back out. There we go. I'm just going to zoom in. I'm just going to refine this edge a little bit more. Turn the opacity down just to double check because there are bits here. So I'm going to use my brush tool and I'm going to lower this hardness so that it's quite soft. Now I don't want the opacity really high here because I want to be able to see. And I'm just going to brush on around his paw where it's masked some of it out. This isn't perfect, but then I'm going to go over again with the Refine Edge brush tool and just refine those edges. There we go. Now I'm happy he's got his paw in. Obviously that bit there is covered by a yellow flower. I'm going to zoom out. I'm happy with where that's at. That's really intense. Okay. So then I'm happy, so I'm going to go ahead and press OK. Now we have another copy layer, and this is the one with our subject. So I'm just going to rename that to subject. I don't usually do this, but for this video I'm going to. Now this original background copy layer is hidden, so we're going to unhide that. And we want to copy this layer mask down here to the background copy layer, which will be just the background layer. But as you can see, there is no layer mask there, so we want to create one. So we're going to go down here and click this to add a layer mask. This will be fully white. Then we want to copy this selection and paste it down here. So you're going to click and hold Option and then click and hold the layer mask and drag that down and let go. And now we have two subject layers. But we don't want this one as the subject layer because we want this one to be our background. So we are going to invert it. Again, on a MacBook, I'm going to press Command and I. I will, in the descriptions below, I will put all the relevant keys in that you can use. So for example, for inverting and copying layer masks, and I will put the Windows counterpart keys in as well. So we've done our layer masks and now we want to edit our background. So make sure you've got your background layer here selected. Don't click on your layer mask, it won't work. Make sure you've got this bit selected. Go up to filter, camera raw filter, and this is where we're going to manipulate the colors, add some drama to the background, blur the background, just whatever you want to do. So to start off with, we're going to go to light. Now I don't want to increase the brightness here because it was a sunny day and as you can see the background was quite light anyway. But what I do for all my images is I increase contrast to 15. For this one I'm going to lower highlights to 35 and lower whites to 20. And then because I've done that and it's gone a bit dark, I'm just going to increase shadows to about 35. Now I'm done with light here, so I'm going to go to effects. And again, I do this to all my images. I'm going to decrease texture to 20, minus 20, and increase clarity to 15. Now I'm done with effects here, and then I'm going to go to color mixer. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with this image in respect to the colors. I don't like how it is at the moment. I think they're quite in your face, and I don't like them. And I don't think moody greens would work because the flowers are yellow, so it'll look weird. So we're not doing that today. No moody greens. However, I am going to take my yellow hue slider and turn that up into the orange section. And I'm going to do the greens a little bit as well. Then I'm going to go to saturation and just decrease the orange, yellow and green saturation. I'm actually going to take this green back. Okay, yeah, I'm going to take that green back. And then I'm going to go to luminance, and because this again is still quite bright, I'm going to lower the orange and the yellows a little bit. And I might even increase the greens. Now I'm happy with that. It's quite muted and the background isn't as bright. So there's the before, and that's what we have. Now my background is blurred, but I want it to be more blurry. So the way I do this is I go to this masking here, and then I go down to brush, go down to effects, and then I'm going to put texture to -50 and clarity to -25. And then I'm going to increase my brush size, and then I'm just going to paint that over the background where I want everything to be blurry. I've just painted in a flower there, so I'm going to take that back out. Apologies if you hear scratching, that's my pen on my graphics tablet. I'm also going to do the foreground down here. Foreground blur is good, guys, by the way. Don't be afraid to add some foreground blur, but you will have to be really low on the ground to do it. Right, so I accidentally added in some flowers. So I'm just going to go to subtract, and I'm just going to take those out. Because they're in focus and we want them to be, I want them to be seen. Let's go back there. There's the before, and there's the after. So I'm happy with that, so I'm going to press OK. Give it a minute to load those changes. And then we have our background layer. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to add a gradient layer. This adds a little bit of light. So we're going to take the method from smooth to classic. And I'm going to turn it down to about 51. And then we want the style to be radial. Move it so you can see it. Now at the moment it's black, we don't want it to be black. So we're going to click the black on the left side, click color, and you want that to be the brightest part of the image, which is roughly here. Now I don't necessarily want it that color, so I'm going to turn it up a little bit. There we go. And then this shouldn't be black, this should be white. So I'm going to go to color again and select it and go white. Don't worry how bright it is right now. We are going to change the opacity. So we're just going to increase that. I'm going to turn this round a little bit. And turn it right down. Next we are going to add a curves layer. You don't have to do this, but I like doing it. So we're going to go down to the add new fill or adjustments layer, and we're going to go to curves. And then we're going to bring this point here down a little bit. And this point here I'm going to bring up a little bit. And then this one here finally I'm going to also bring up. It just I find it adds a bit of depth and drama to the images, and it brings everything back to life a little bit. So I'm going to leave all that for now. Sometimes I might go back and have a play around depending on how everything looks in the end. Now we're going to work on floss. So we're going to click our subject layer. Again, we're going to go to filter, and camera raw filter. Wait for it to load again. Now to start with here, I'm going to go to color mixer, and I'm going to click saturation, and I'm going to click this tool here, and I'm just going to have a look at his fur and see what colours he is reflecting, and I'm seeing a lot of yellow. So I'm going to take this yellow slider and I'm going to bring that right down because he should be black and white. Now there's a bit of orange. Now when you turn the orange down, just watch their eyes, especially if they have brown orangey eyes. I'm just going to bring the orange down. There we go, he's now black and white. I'm also going to bring the red down because his bow's quite in your face. So that's it for the colour. I'm happy, he looks black and white now. Effects, I increase texture to 15. And then clarity to 10. Just so you get that detail in the fur, I need to get rid of this. So you get that detail in the fur then. And then I'm going to close effects, and then I'm going to go up to color, light, sorry, not color. And then again, contrast to 15. I'm not going to touch the highlights. I'm going to bring shadows up to about 35 and whites up to about 25. No, maybe lower, 20. Yeah, 20. Now I'm not touching exposure and I'm not touching highlights. I'm happy with that. I don't feel like I need to do anything else, so I'm going to press OK. Again, it took a minute, but Floss is now black and white and he is done. Now I'm going to do another gradient layer, but this time we're going to invert it so that it's more of a vignette. So again, go down to add adjustment layers, and then we're going to add a gradient. Again, you want radial, but we're going to reverse it this time, and we want classic. We don't want black. I'm actually going to increase the size here because I can't see what I'm doing. So I'm going to click this side, and I'm going to click a dark area of the image, which is there. Obviously I've upped it so I can't see. So I'm going to bring that down. And then I'm just going to move it about there and then increase the size. Now you can just drag it around till you're happy. You want it to be even both sides. I can't see where I've moved it to now. There. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to leave it there. If it's too dark, you can play with the opacity and the fill over on this side if your vignette is too obvious. But you don't have to, but I would try and avoid doing a really obvious vignette. It's quite off-putting, and you want your dog to you want to be drawn to the dog quite naturally. You don't want to feel forced there by a really black vignette. After the inverted gradient fill, so the vignette, I then work on highlights and shadows. So to do this, I add a layer, but this time we're going to go up to layer. We're going to go to new, and then we're going to go to new layer. You want to go to mode, and you want it to be overlay, and you want to tick the fill with overlay neutral color 50% gray, and I'm just going to rename this to highlights and shadows. And then I'm going to press OK. So as you can see, it adds a gray layer here. And then to do my highlights and shadows, I like to use dodge and burn. So first we're going to go to the burn tool. These you can play with, but don't put them too high. I have shadows on for shadows. That's quite self-explanatory there. And my computer's going really, really slow. So I'm just going to create a bit more depth on his face so that he stands out a lot more, and we're going to make his eyes stand out as well. So in the black areas, not the parts that are really, really black like here, but in the areas that are supposed to be black but are quite a bit lighter, we're going to go over those and just bring them to life. As you can see, his eyes already look so much better. I do this all the time. This is how I lighten eyes and make them stand out. And we're just going to go over his mouth. So we'll go down here, and that needs to be a little bit darker. I don't think I need to do anything else as far as shadows are concerned, so I'm going to go to the dodge tool. Don't have this one too high and have it on midtones, otherwise you will make your image look quite silly. So I'm just going to highlight the top of the nose where it's the brightest and down here. And then again, we're going to use the dodge tools, and we're going to go over the catch lights in the eyes to make them more prominent. Then we're going to go over the colour to make them stand out a lot more. Don't do this too much, otherwise it will look really off. Only do it to sort of match the image. I'm also going to go over and highlight some of his white bits, especially on the top of his head. And his ears. We actually sat him in the shade, so there isn't much light. It's all behind this time. I'm actually going to click back on the burn tool and just make some of this black more black. It looks too grey for my liking. And I'm going to zoom out. Too far. So as you see, we haven't actually done too much with the highlights and shadows. We've adjusted the eyes and made this side of his face more even to that side. because it was looking a bit grey. But other than that, he's looking adorable. And that's about it. That's all I do for my editing. I don't actually do too much. There are some photographers that have like a billion layers on this side, but this is pretty much all I have every time. If I feel I need to, I will go back into like the background layer and the subject layer and tweak it more if I feel like it needs to be darker or a bit lighter, or the colours need altering. I will go over the gradient fills on their own and adding highlights and shadows on their own in a separate tutorial video in the next coming weeks. Thank you for watching. If you found this video useful, please leave a like and a comment down below. And also, if you're feeling extra generous, please subscribe to my channel. It will mean a great deal. And if you want to be notified when I upload a new video, hit the bell icon and you will be notified when I do. I am trying to upload each week, but I can't make any promises. Bye for now.